All right, we're live. Good evening, Nathan.
Evening, Dr. Arlene. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thank you.
Good, good.
Um, it's nice to be back here. I think we were here 2 weeks ago.
It was like right before New Year's, so Happy New Year's.
Right, right. Good evening, everyone. It's January 21st to 2022, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hello to our audiences in the Pacific Coast area, also Mountain Standard, Eastern Standard time zones, as well as people from all over the world. They do watch these videos on YouTube, and we are also viral in terms of we have our own Facebook page now, our private group page and our professional pages. And we do have an archive of this right now streaming through my Facebook Live and also my professional page as well as our YouTube channel. So, Nathan, how are you doing? Let you greet our audience.
Hi, everyone from LA. Hopefully, y'all are having a great start to your New Year's. Especially, I'm sure you used everything that we talked about in our New Year's resolution episode. Hope you all are doing great with that. Just getting your outcome goals, your performance goals, your process goals on paper, refining them, and I hope you're also giving yourselves like good feedback so that it encourages you to keep doing the day-to-day grind.
Absolutely, Nathan. I have been approached after this, so some folks may not be able to tune in, and but that should not deter us from our consistent live streaming, mostly on Friday, so we could have
Mm.
Saturday in Asia. We are not yet friendly to our European friends and Middle Eastern friends who had reached out to me.
We'll get
Hopefully,
there.
um, hopefully they could get to this live through our YouTube channels and videos. I have been approached by other professionals who learn about what we do in terms of coaching. Tell us more, Nathan, about your background so folks can actually understand what we could actually put together for them. But let me tell you that my son, whom you had talked to, now went back to just slowly to his fencing lessons. And thank you for your pep talk and just your overall insight as to whether or not he is still very interested. I have other parents who are sports parents who have watched us and asking for more content and
Hmm.
different content, and we're building on that. We were just talking about it. This is our third
Sure.
broadcast, right?
Hmm.
So
Yep.
we're
Just
getting
the tip of the iceberg.
yeah, we're getting the hang of it, and we're offline. We're talking about the content that we will be producing. Let me tell you that
Hmm.
Nathan is one of my trainers of Mental Training Inc. He had been leading the training program there for the last 2 years that I was there. He'd been with Mental Training Inc. for the last 7 years. And he had been training folks like me and other psychologists and mental trainers who are into sports psychology and peak performance. So there's a lot of Nathan that he has in his toolbox that he could bring to the picture. But I will let him introduce himself and his passion. For those of you who have not known him, because this is my channel, so I'm sure you know me, but not much of Nathan. Nathan.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Yeah, so I've worked with individual clients, whether it's athletes, performing artists, people in business, to teams as a whole, high school basketball, club hockey teams, and basically anybody and any group that understands how thoughts affect performance and then wanting to get a greater grasp on how their thoughts affect their performance. So it doesn't matter what the field is, there's universal truths in performance that applies across the board, no matter the area. And I like to think that as much as it is a science, it's also an art to be able to listen, be able to take into context where you're at individually, as a team, as a company, and just be able to say, okay, I get where you're trying to go. I get what you're wanting to enhance. Here's a little package of stuff that we're going to work on. We're going to coach you up. I like saying we're the strength and conditioning coach for the mind. So if it takes different muscles to play football versus MMA fighting, basketball tennis, whatever it may be. And I think that's where our ability to come in and just observe and listen so that we know which exercises to get you on, which parts to strengthen you up in your mind so that you could be focused, mentally tough, and even have like the cognitive abilities to be creative, innovative when things kind of hit the fan. We want to get you in that position. We're not saying we're going to have you have a clear path towards success. We're saying we're giving you the mental skills so that no matter what it takes to get to that successful goal that you have, you're going to be in the best position possible to actually achieve those goals.
Oh, absolutely. And the setup could be one-on-one. It could be, a small group or a big group of
Right.
that. Is that true?
It
That's
could be a big group. It could be a talk. It could be a workshop. It could be there are tons of options in order to get you the skills that you need so that you could be at your best when you need it the most.
right. So I know that for the sports psychology side of your coaching, obviously the area of concern will be peak performance and maybe going through the next level of competition and their performance and just anything that goes with what a competitive athlete would their challenges and pain points. What about for normal individuals? Are you able to, let's say, for example, for me, I always bring to our sessions that, I'd love to be better in terms of my presentation, doing research and just really overall my mindset. For normal individuals, Nathan, that maybe is that somehow similar to health coaching, or you mentioned about being a mind and mental conditioning coach. Um, do I have, and obviously this is not something clinical, do I have to bring what kinds of like day to day? Can I bring day to day topics, or could I bring topics that maybe I'm just really stuck on my wellness challenge or what I want to accomplish?
No, that's a great question. Definitely. Uh, that's one of the reasons I got into this is where the skills that we use to make you better, say in sports, I want you to see such immediate feedback that it worked, that we can also show you how that works in your relationships, in your job, in your schooling, whatever it may be. Because the stuff that I learned just playing high school sports and the such, I still use in various aspects. Like I am naturally, I guess, more of like the introvert type, if you want to use those labels. So it takes me a while to get up to be able to like talk to people in front of you. I've taught university classes, but the mental routine that I have, which would be using visualization to make sure I know what parts I'm going to talk about, having my self-talk ready so that when I start feeling insecure, maybe
Mhm.
I had a student that asked a question that I didn't know to, I know how to utilize these mental skills so that I can stay calm. I could give them
Mhm.
the information that they need or whatever they're asking for, and then I could use that situation to stay mentally tough and continue on with my presentation or continue on with whatever it is I'm doing. But I use those same mental skills I used in tennis and in basketball and running
Mhm. Mhm.
to teaching a university class or speaking at a conference or even working with individual clients. Like visualization is one of my biggest tools, and that's been so helpful because that helps me make sure I stay on task and I'm able to give everything that I need to give. And if I didn't refine that during performances, say like in a tennis match, I don't
Mhm.
think I'd be as good as I am today without it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's stunning to know because you definitely have translated that through your coaching sessions. So I don't have to be an athlete or have played sports in order to benefit from your coaching or for whatever we are talking about.
Right. No, you just have to like not be living as a hermit and never leaving your house. Like if you're interacting with people, you could use these
Yeah.
mental skills. And if you're doing it, if you apply this, you could actually enhance whatever job that you have or whatever
Mhm.
hobby that you're
Yeah.
doing. Mental skills, we use them. We already use them. The difference
Yeah.
is the people who are elite know what they're using and have trained themselves to use it even better.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned about visualization. I would love to give you a testimonial that,
Yeah,
all the sessions that we had and have learned over the last 2 years from our weekly sessions have really helped me, hone my presentation skills, all the techniques
that's
that we
great.
have in there. So I am I could attest to the effectiveness and the power of mental toughness training and the coaching that you have done. So
So
I know
that's
it's my
great.
peak performance and presentation. So I would love to publicly say that. So thank you
Oh,
for
thank
that.
you. I know. I thank you. Like that's exactly what we aim to do. We want to be able
Yes,
to enhance everybody's abilities.
yeah, absolutely. So this week's topic is about self-awareness, and how to build self-awareness for peak performance, focus, and I want to add extra step into the happiness side to it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think there's something about happiness and self-awareness that correlates, and I've seen some research that said so. So it's not just performing to your absolute peak and really being successful, but I think when all of those comes in, you could really impact your mental health and your mood
Oh,
and be a
oh.
happy person. So I'd love to kind of like put that into the almost like what you call this, an accidental or maybe unintentional benefit of having a very good skill of being self-aware.
Oh no, I totally agree. Self awareness. I think I might have mentioned it before, but it's like the cornerstone of this work, because if you're not aware of how your thoughts are impacting your performance, you don't know what to change. You don't know what to coach up. You don't know what to enhance. And so when you're aware of your thoughts and you realize how much power you have over that, and that you know that you can change the stuff that you don't want to change, and you can keep what you want to keep, that's where like that happiness that you're speaking to, that's where that comes in. uh,
Right.
uh, I can't I think we all know that so many people who are unhappy with their lives are not happy with themselves. And
Absolutely.
there's a lot of times that people who just like not want to do the internal work because they don't want to confront things, they don't want to know things, whatever it may be, and it's normal. And that's
Mhm.
another thing I want to hit home. Almost everybody, pretty much everybody, has dealt with this at some point in their life.
Mhm.
But the good news is you can coach yourself up. You can be coached up on how to have the awareness of what the thoughts are, but also being able to control them. I mean, unless you're clinically diagnosed for something in particular where like you need medication or a professional therapist, that's there
Mhm.
too. And that's why everybody's finally embracing therapy, because it's like, oh yeah, we do need this external help. But there's a
Mhm.
lot of aspects that we could deal with now, this very moment today, where we could build up that self awareness and also just encourage you to be like, whatever you hear, whatever you find, you have the ability to change it if you want, or you have the ability to keep it and enhance that if you want.
Mhm.
So it can
Right.
go both ways.
Yeah. So that's very good. You've always mentioned that the cornerstone of any form of development is self-awareness, whether that you're an athlete, you're an aspiring executive, or whether you just want to be good at what you do or just be well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is there certain steps that you have provided and tools when you are coaching on self-awareness? What are those steps to get into that process if you have to
Yeah.
have a systematic steps on that?
Yeah, we have quite a few that we offer, but one I wanted to talk about today was just basic journaling, but journaling with timestamps. I like to start developing self awareness and just an awareness of thoughts just randomly, and it's as simple as just having a piece of paper and a pen. And I like to give my clients like three times throughout the day. One when you wake up, one at some point during the middle of the day, 11:45 a.m., 2:25 p.m., whatever it may be. Just choose one, and then one right before you go to bed, and put your alarms for this. Because when you
Mhm.
put your alarms, like, okay, this is when I need to do it. You don't even have to really think about it. And to me, that's like the most organic. And
Mhm.
when those alarms go off, you just take out your piece of paper, your pen, your note app, whatever it may be, and you just write down the thoughts that you were just having when your alarm
At the
goes off
moment.
at that moment. So, like, if you just wake up, you can just say, like, that was a weird dream. I'm not feeling that good. I feel great. Can't wait to tackle the day. Or the random one in the middle of the day. I'm hungry. That was a great conversation I just had with mom. Or my coworkers getting on my nerves. And
Mhm.
then right before you go to bed, like, this was a good day, or this was
Mhm.
a bad day. I wish this could have happened. But
Mm-hmm.
just like you start understanding, oh, this is where my thoughts go throughout the day. And doing that for like a good 14 days straight, you'll
Mm-hmm.
start getting a good feel of what you are thinking randomly throughout the day or even intentionally.
Okay.
And so that's one way to start developing that awareness. I'm not even saying that you have to judge those thoughts per se,
Mm-hmm.
like you have to keep them
Right.
or not, but you become aware. It's just good to see, like, wow, like 3 times randomly or 3 times throughout the day, this is where my mind goes, and you'll start seeing patterns. And I,
Okay.
even if you're not liking what you're reading, also remind yourself like you're gonna have the ability to change those thoughts.
Right.
You're gonna
Right.
have the ability to deal with it, and that's one thing I definitely want to hit home because you we really can't control what thoughts start popping up in our head or what
Mm-hmm.
voices, but we can control how we react to them. And to me, that's the beautiful part about mental skills training is coaching up those muscles so that whatever we want to keep, we'll protect, we'll let it flourish. But the stuff that we don't want to hear, the stuff that we know is bad for
Mm-hmm.
our performance or even bad for our happiness and well-being,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to take care of that as well.
So what I've heard is journaling, any form of, have like just notebook and pencil, whatever. There is that process of the tactile, old-fashioned writing it down.
Yep.
Random thoughts that you have, put a timestamp. Let's say, it's 6:16. I was thinking of XYZ. I'm not feeling this. So it's just thoughts, feelings, maybe
Mm-hmm.
wishes, whatever it is at that moment. Is there a certain length of time that do you just go on for 5 minutes, ten
Oh no,
minutes,
good
or
question.
is
Yeah.
that just whenever you feel like
Yeah.
stop it?
3 to 5 minutes. Excuse me, just 3 to 5 minutes, because you're not even having to. It's not even like a diary entry where you're writing like this is what I was feeling, and I can't believe like it's evolved into this. It's just like okay, I'm thinking about coffee. I'm thinking about how my coworker
Mhm.
got me mad. I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat for lunch tomorrow. Just like it
Right.
could just be very bullet point.
Right. So it doesn't have to be just raw. I think there is a
Yeah. Oh
beauty
yes.
and a
That's
benefit for its rawness, right? So, okay.
exactly.
And then as you go for the day, do you look at it and see patterns? Do you kind of encircle patterns, or do you do, I was just thinking maybe there's always a time for color coding as to you see patterns. So how do you analyze your own thoughts and
Right.
feelings?
So usually what I would have them do too is this the next session I see them, and they've usually been doing it for about 7 days at that point. I
Mhm.
just ask them. That's when I started probing. You have these kind of entries. Whatever they want to share with me.
Mhm.
They have these entries like, what were you thinking? Like, how do you feel having those thoughts? Do you want to keep those thoughts? And so as we go through that, we see how it impacts maybe their performance or whatever it is that it's impacting. I like to
Mhm.
ask them like, do they want that? Do they want to keep it? Do they not? And then we
Right.
start talking about self-talk in
Mhm.
particular, but being able to like develop the self-awareness, then giving them that tool of self-talk, being able to recognize it, stop it, replacing it, and using other self-talk tools to start complementing. And the journal thing doesn't last forever. It's just one of those things that gets it started because we also have like the gap exercise and
Oh
the
yeah.
such that develops the awareness of thought as well. And then using those results, what they're feeling, what they're experiencing when they do the journaling, the gap exercise, and then showing them how it relates to mental skills, and then
Mhm.
saying like, okay, let's build this. Like I know this is what you want to get strong at, and let's develop that.
Right. Yeah. You kind of like I didn't understand the last word that you said. The internet just went off on that
Oh, sorry.
one.
Oh, just like how we'll just develop that. We'll develop their mental skills,
Okay. Right.
building off the self awareness.
Okay. So self-awareness, just really paying attention to your thoughts randomly, take a stamp on the timestamp on that one, and then just take a look at that. And if you're doing it on your own, just take a look at that, maybe create patterns, be more creative, kind of encircle what patterns, see if there is maybe a sentiment there, whether the
Mm-hmm.
sentiment is positive or negative or neutral. I think there are times when I've done similar things where I feel like there is a negative pattern for the day, or a sense of
Mm-hmm.
excitement because there's something going on there, and then the
Mm-hmm.
next day would be a different mood, right? So it's a way for us to learn first of all, there are different moods and sentiments and thoughts and feelings that cycle through during, the day and the next day and the days after that. So I think that's what you're saying is a good exercise for self-awareness that builds
Hmm.
into. Tell us more about the gap exercise. I heard you saying about the gap exercise.
Sure. Yeah. It's excuse me. It's basically like what we think of meditation, where we're just trying to like be calm, still. Maybe you have some like ambient music, um, and you just focus on this gap, and this gap is where it's in between thoughts. And if a thought comes into your head, it's not a matter of like, oh no, I let a thought come in. It's like, okay, this is the thought that came in. Great. You swipe it off and you just go back to being in that gap. And
Hmm.
it's just a matter of like training your mind to be like, oh, this is a thought that just came in. I don't need to keep it, so I'm going to let it go. But I at least
Right.
acknowledged it. Like one of the ways that that's helped me is I know there are, I overthink things, especially when it comes to like, people that I have relationships with, whether it's family, loved ones, whatever. So sometimes I could overthink, like, oh, you know what? They haven't texted me back in a while, or whatever it may be, and I could feel my anxiety come up. But because I also know like that's irrational, I acknowledge the anxiety. I know like, oh, okay, that's a little unusual for them to not text back, but you know what? Maybe they're just busy with a talk right now. Maybe they're giving me
Right.
a
Right.
2 hour talk. So at least at that point, I recognized it. I changed it so that I could go about my business and just wait for them to text back. And usually, the vast majority of the time, it is not at all what I had catastrophized the situation was going to be.
Yeah.
That was just my own personal insecurities, but
Yeah.
that's fine. Like I know I can control my insecurities in that way.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just a matter of like, okay, yeah, this is I know this part about me. I recognize this, and I know how to cope with it. And that's really the biggest thing about life. I realize like it's not negating all the bad stuff. It's just like, okay, how do I properly cope with it so that it doesn't debilitate me?
Oh, absolutely. And you could see that from your journal of self-awareness journals, right? What you're
Right.
thinking right now is influenced by maybe a trigger, a situation, or an event, or lack of events, right, in your
Right.
life, and the
Right.
people around you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things that you are wanting to do, and so yeah, I could see that that's very, very effective. I like when you kind of like touch on some of the cognitive distortions there, that, oh well, I'm feeling XYZ because this person has not called me yet. I wonder if this person is doing XYZ and I'm reacting this way. And then through the process of self awareness, you were able to neutralize that catastrophizing or whatever, that polarized thinking or blaming or whatever. But you touch on cognitive distortions as a way to self awareness as a way to uh, probably validate and verify your thoughts and feelings, right? um, could you as a as a mental coach for competitive athletes, I wonder, in the competitive athlete side, do they have, what kind of cognitive distortions do they have? Are
Oh,
they, at the high level, right? And how do they actually pacify their thoughts?
right. Right. Yes, cognitive distortion we all deal with. Just like with elite performers, like we can literally also see when they start, spiraling down that way. One of my favorites is if you just watch tennis matches, you could see, especially like not necessarily like the top five in the world, but this happens, more often than we even realize. But even in like the Grand Slam, like Australian Open, there's a chance that you can see somebody melt down, and it could be as simple as they're hitting they're double faulting, right? You get a couple of double faults, and they can be like, "Oh, I knew it. This is not my tournament. This is just not it. I'm gonna stink
Mm-hmm.
it up." And because of that, then their body is literally following their thoughts, and they're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna have that full extension. They're not gonna have the right toss, whatever it may be. And so, if they could start, letting those thoughts run away with them,
Mm-hmm.
the bad stuff is going to happen because the body will follow the mind. The
Mm-hmm.
opposite can be true, though. how many great comebacks have you had? And you know that those players that have made great comebacks, they weren't catastrophizing their situation. I
Mhm.
mean, they may have been down like 0-5, and they could come back and win.
Right.
What the only difference is not necessarily the training, because at that level they pretty much are all physically in the same level. It was
Mm-hmm.
just that focus, that confidence, that motivation to be able to do it. And even if they were down, they didn't have to say like, "Oh, this person's got my number. They're gonna beat me." They could be just like, "Okay, I'm down 0-5, but I still got a couple of points left in me. I'm going to see where this
Mm-hmm.
goes." Totally different approach, totally different mindset. So, um, letting if you start feeling the bad thoughts coming on, at least you're aware of it. And we all have the bad thoughts come on. It's just becoming
Right.
aware, and also aware of your strength to actually say no to that and replacing it.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
a skill of being self-aware would certainly determine whether you are having that cognitive distortions of polarizing, catastrophizing, blaming, or whatever it is, versus no having no clue at all of what's happening in your life, right?
Right.
So, would you
Yeah.
like to add more on that one?
Yeah, no, you're hitting it on the head where like the awareness is crucial for that, because you got to be aware first. Then the other part comes in where, okay, how are you strengthening your mental muscles to not only uh, be aware of it, but to like stop it, kind of like stopping that
Yes.
train and then
Yeah.
replacing it with something else. And
Yeah.
that's
That's the
where
hard
you want
part.
to build up those mental skills, huh?
That's the hardest part is
Yeah,
stopping it,
yeah,
right?
right. And that's why you
Why
have
is
people
it
like us
hard?
here to encourage you to like
Yeah,
bring that
yeah,
awareness,
yeah.
build up that.
So all these competitive athletes, high level athletes, how do they stop right away? Is that through the practice of, there is the emotional control that we teach. There are different exercises.
Hmm.
So is it really, the process of mastery? So you have to do it over and over again. It's because I think there is that muscle memory and
Oh yeah.
creating new neural pathway. Tell us
Right.
more about that.
Right. No, like anything else, you have to practice something if you really want to strengthen that ability to do it and to do it well. And even then, like you want to make sure you're doing it right, because a I could shoot a basketball, and it could go in a good amount of the times. But if I have really bad mechanics, I'm not gonna be a go-to player. I'll be somebody that can make a shot every once in a while. So same thing
Mm-hmm.
with mental skills. Like we all use mental skills in some way, but not
Mm-hmm.
not everybody uses it like as effectively as they could.
Yeah.
And a lot of times just because they didn't get the coaching for that. They
Right.
didn't get somebody who was able to like hear what they're going through, hear what their thoughts are, show them, some proper techniques, and then giving them that little like sandbox to try it out and to like build up that confidence. Oh, this is what it looks like to do it successfully. Oh, I'm doing it successfully. So that's another key point too. Like we're all doing it in some way, um, but not everybody's doing it the most effectively for what they need.
Okay. And one of the most effective ways to do it is, to your point a while ago, is to write it down, right? In terms of self-awareness, write it down as a matter of exercise. Is there such a point where, as you have a habit of writing it down, that it becomes automatic for you to have the ability to have a better way of assessing yourself and knowing, so
Oh,
let me just put a caveat that it's not about knowing who you are, but being aware of your
hmm,
physical position, your kinesthetic, your thoughts, your thinking, right? Because self-esteem is different and self-image is different, and knowing who you are is different. But I think it starts all from being self-aware. So tell us some more about, when would that become automatic? How do you
oh,
know that you have the skill to be
right. No,
self?
that's a good question, and it all depends on how much work you put into it. It always comes down to reps and intentional reps. Like you could do it over and over, but if you're not doing it correctly, like I was saying earlier, you may not be having the right awareness, or you may not be strengthening up the part that keeps those bad thoughts from really taking over the moment or taking over the day. Um, but you can practice it, and I've as a, I wouldn't say I was a neurotic kid, but I was very, very uptight as a kid. And when anything didn't go perfectly and I didn't get, maybe like the highest grade in the class or anything like that would start poking at my confidence. So I had to learn to be like, okay, like this is not the end of the world. I'm still doing well. This
Yeah.
was a lot of self-talk that happened. I had a lot of like internal discussions with myself, like, why are we acting like this? Why do we feel this way? Like this is not
Right.
the end of the world. This is
Yeah.
actually still a
Yeah.
good thing.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
now when I've had moments where I don't feel like I've succeeded as well as I could have, I know how to just like box it up, be like, I get it. This is the parts I need to improve on. That's fine. I'm still great at what I do. I can move forward. But it took a long time to like not only develop that, but also to believe it. So to
Hmm.
be able to, yeah, okay, this is how my mind works. This is how the world works, and but it took a lot of reps to do so.
Right.
So
And
I
I've
can't
heard
give you a definitive answer, but just like a lot of experience.
yeah. It looks like you have challenged your self talks and your thinking patterns, right? Challenging our
Mhm.
thoughts. That they always say, do not believe everything that we tell ourselves.
Right,
Right?
right.
We always have to be, skeptical about the thoughts that come to our mind, right? Tell us more about that. When an athlete is telling themselves that they are not good enough, or that they're not going to win, or maybe it's the opposite, that they are going to win, that they're going to be, focusing on the outcome goal that you talked about in our first session. How do you prep themselves to, or themselves, how do they learn how to stay in the moment and challenge their thoughts?
Right. No, it goes back to just like what you can control. Um, Whether it's like catastrophizing thoughts or even delusions of grandeur. If you could just anchor it back down to, okay, what's before me? What's my goal? Like, I haven't won this game yet, so like, why do I feel so confident? And are these thoughts going to keep me from being focused? So
Mhm.
at this point, you start knowing what questions to ask yourself. I could be like, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to kill this speech to the board.
Mhm.
And then I'll always remember, oh, the times I thought I was really good, I wasn't. So what do I need to do? Oh yeah, I need to focus on making sure I hit home the points I'm going to speak on. And if I
Mhm.
just focus on that, then I could bask in that sunshine afterwards.
Mhm.
So depending on what your thoughts are, how you want to use those thoughts in your performance, that's what you'll start getting used to. You'd be like, okay, does this help me focus? Does this help me stay on
Mhm.
task of what I can control? Or
Yeah.
does this let me like make me feel like I'm gonna just coast through when I have a chance not to? Or is this hurting me to where like I'm not gonna focus because I don't feel confident because of what I'm telling myself? So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
the more you start doing it, the more that those conversations become really, really quick. Those conversations you could have within a couple of seconds with yourself. Be like, oh, okay, no,
And then
I know what I
you
need
could
to do.
certainly,
Focus.
yeah, and you could certainly, kind of choose which ones are helpful and which ones are not. And
Exactly.
only when you are aware of your who you are in your environment, right? To your point, when you said you were, growing up as a, quite an uptight kid, where, a dent in a grade or something, you catastrophize, and then as you, have learned the habit of self-awareness, you were able to, validate, as to even question, why are you feeling that way? Why am I feeling this way? And why am I reacting
Oh, yeah.
this way? Right? And what benefits does it give me if I react this way or that way? Right? And to your
Hmm.
point, it's a very rapid process that happens in an athlete's mind, and
Hmm.
they do that because they have learned uh, to master
Hmm.
those kinds of behaviors, and we could
Right.
certainly learn from that.
Right. And like we talked about earlier, like what I really like about being able to develop this self awareness is at that point when you're able to feel comfortable in judging your thoughts and controlling your thoughts and the such, like you're now coaching yourself. You have this autonomy that we, as every single person in, at least, especially in America, we want this individual freedom. Um, so if you really don't ever want to feel like somebody's like forcing you to buy Coke over Pepsi or to
Mhm.
buy, junk food over healthy food, self-awareness is your key for that. If you have self-awareness and you are confident in your ability to understand your thoughts and control your thoughts, you
Mhm.
there's no one that could force you to do anything you don't want to do. And that's a
Right.
very powerful act, especially in the mind of a person.
Right. Yeah. I think this is a very good, topic to continue next week, because controlling your thoughts and extracting what's beneficial and not beneficial. I think those are things that most people get stuck on. I do, myself get stuck on what's beneficial, not beneficial,
Mm,
in terms of, I could stop my thoughts, but then I cannot pick and choose which ones would be beneficial for me. And that would be nice to kind of say, well, there is a criteria that you should be looking into, especially if you are deciding at the moment, right? Especially, when you are, let's say, trying to lose weight or being well. So a lot of folks, had listened to our making resolutions last week,
hmm
focus on distractions, and we talked about what we tell ourselves, our body follows, and you talk about just fake it. There's nothing wrong with getting into the zone. And if you feel like you are at the parking lot of a gym and you feel like you are wanting to leave, right? You actually allowed us to permission to say you can leave, right? You don't have to force yourself to be there. But and then I talked about the pre-contemplation and contemplation part, where I was pre-contemplating something like a Peloton activity for me, which I hate and I ended up loving, because I was focusing on the wrong goals, right? And
Uh-huh.
I think that is part of maybe being self-aware of what I
hmm
don't like and like. But then growth comes in when we allow ourselves to get out of our comfort zone and be in the moment. And I was again, I was looking at the wrong metric. I was measuring Peloton from a point of view of the activity versus the experience, and I ended up loving it because of the competitive side that it
hmm
brought in me, which is part of my one of my characteristics, in a
Exactly.
positive way. But going back to your self awareness, and I think this is something that I would really love for you to really break the anatomy of it, so to speak, because the controlling of your once you know your thoughts, your thinking patterns, and your feelings, and what is right, not your cognitive distortions. I think a lot of people, including myself, have a hard time figuring that out. When you stop,
Mm,
what do you do? How do you cycle through the ones that are beneficial and not beneficial? And my
right.
question to you, I know we're kind of like top of the hour here. My question to you is about wellness goals.
hmm
I think a lot of folks are still trying to get their New Year's resolutions or whatever resolutions they have to be well for 2022. January is a big day for month for those kinds of things.
hmm
Um, what is the top? What are your maybe top five self awareness takeaway that you love for us to bring with us in terms of um our or of accomplishing our wellness goals?
Right.
How can
No,
I use this, what I'm hearing from you, Nathan, on self awareness? How can that help me accomplish my wellness goals?
okay. I don't know if I have top five, but I will say, like, especially when it comes to, say, accomplishing your wellness goals for the resolution, awareness will help you become aware of you beating yourself up or you encouraging yourself. And that's one thing I know I had to deal with a lot, where I had voices of, say, like maybe certain coaches, certain teachers, certain family members, uh, well intending, but sometimes, maybe feedback I got from them was like, it kind of just like weighed on me and was not encouraging. And so whenever I would do something like say I had told my family I was trying to lose weight, because when I lived in Boston, I developed a nice little dad bod. Um, and I could either continue to hear their voices say, like, you're so chubby, or you're not going to lose that weight, or whatever it may be, and I could let that impact me. Or I could continue going on a day-to-day run, my daily runs, and work that down. Now, when the hiccups happen is, if I miss, instead of running 4 days a week, I ran twice a certain. I could be beating myself up. I'm like, oh man, no, I didn't get those other 2 days in. This is gonna set me back. I ate like crap this whole week too. Not only did I not run, I ate like crap. Oh man. And then I could like I could literally feel my body just kind of like sulking and be like, oh no, we're gonna gain this weight and I'm not gonna be ready for summer or anything like that. Or I could
Mhm.
be like, okay, that's right. You know what? I ate like crap. I only ran twice, and I feel bad about that. But I know I still got at least another 5 months until summer comes. I also live in a great place where I could still wake up early in a winter morning and go out for a run because I live in LA.
Mhm.
And then also, I've seen how I've gotten faster and stronger. So I want to keep that up. And I may have
Mhm.
a couple steps back, but I know I'm still going forward. And so
Mhm.
it was just a matter of like not letting those the thoughts that would drag me down to keep dragging me down.
Mhm.
Like it did for a little bit,
Right.
but I was
Right.
aware of its impact, and I also knew how to get coach or motivate myself back up by just facts. I have time. I've been seeing improvements, and I'm just gonna focus on that aspect, not the oh yeah, my family was right. I'm never gonna lose this excess weight that I have.
Right. Right. Yeah. Oh, that's very good. No, that's exactly on point. A lot of us who know who probably have maybe a more developed self-awareness skills. We get stuck with our negative self-talk, and just as we get self-aware and try to understand the pattern, we do not learn from the patterns of our thinking, but settle with what we will typically do. We don't change course. There's no course correction. At least I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I have a hard time course correcting because of habits, right? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
that's always the right way. Whether that's the right way or the shortcuts, I always get to a point, but never really learn, something new. Just like as I've mentioned, the dislike of a Peloton, leading to it's actually one of the things I love doing right now because of other inherent beneficial aspects of the activity that I did not know because I was so avoiding the activity. So I will never know what else is in there. It's just like I go with what people say versus what I have experienced. So I think we have the same kind of thing where others thoughts of about certain things or their opinions also can sway us from positive to negative, right? So we
Right,
also have to be aware of how those the opinions of others and the thinking of others affect us.
right. And you also touched on something too that is important, where you know we may not change. Like we could become aware, but maybe we don't change, whether
Yeah.
we don't know how. And one of the things I'm hoping that as people do the journaling and start becoming more aware, like you could become aware of how those thoughts might be hindering your performance. Like, is it keeping you from giving a good talk? Is it keeping you from getting a promotion? Is it keeping
Yeah.
you from having relationships? And I think there's a natural process where when you start becoming aware of your thoughts, you start becoming aware of like when those thoughts happen and the impact that it has on you individually and you as you interact with your workplace or your teammates or your family.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. That's so powerful. Well, I've learned a lot today. Things that I would normally thought that I have learned so much self awareness theories in my mind, but this is a very practical way of looking at it, especially in the context of peak performance. How athletes do course correction right at the moment because of the mastery that they have done. They do this many times. They do journaling, and to your point, the difference is really on mental training. I know we're 6:44 now, and we don't want to keep them. We want them to be teased to our next topic. But Nathan, I'd love for you to give you the last statements for maybe to summarize what we just talked about. What would be your key takeaway that you love for people to take with them from this discussion?
No, thank you. Yeah. So with self-awareness, cornerstone of any kind of mental skill development, whether it's for, goal setting to visualization, just being able to focus, being able to adjust when things don't go the way that you want them to go. Self-awareness is the cornerstone, the start of that. Because when you're aware of the thoughts that you are, and you start becoming aware of how much power you have in saying that these thoughts get to stay or they get to go, not only will your performance enhance, but your well-being and your happiness as well, because you're going to start seeing how much control you have over your thoughts when maybe you
Yep.
didn't realize it. And if you're able to do that, you're at the very least you're on the path to liking yourself. At the most, you're going to be excelling at almost everything that you put your mind to, because you know how it works and you know how it works inside you. So please, if you have any questions regarding this, we would love to answer them, field them, help in any way. So,
That's well said. Thank you so much. So yes, as Nathan said, we now have our own FB page, private page, and social was Instagram that will and YouTube. And materials will be uploaded as we actually deem fit and necessary. But I would definitely would love to give you some tools to take away. Those are the kinds of things that I was asked, and those were the requests of people so that they could actually download materials and do that. So maybe Nathan, we could talk offline as to maybe give a sample of that journaling. Is there are
sure.
prompts that should be putting on
I
their
mean,
paper? I think that would be great.
yeah, we could do that, and then definitely we could also give example times of when to do it, just so that you could set your alarm on your phone, so that you don't have to think about it. And for me, I think that's the most organic way to really become aware of your thoughts. Just, once the alarm goes off, you're gonna take out your sheet, your pen, and you just put it down on paper.
Awesome. Again, another deceptively simple technique from our I always want to call him sports psychologist, but he also want to say that he is the mind and mental conditioning coach. Right? But which is true. He had helped me a lot with my presentation and my work, and obviously
Thank you.
overall as a fencing mom. And that is, I could attest to. He has a lot of tool in his toolbox. So tools in his toolbox. So thanks again, all, and this will be published, and we have an archive of this, and we you will hear us more from us more because we are getting more structured. This is our third streaming, and thank you for all that have watched and have extended
Yeah,
their
thank you.
liking to our podcast, broadcast, and live stream. Thank you all. Good night and good morning to everyone.
Yeah,
Bye bye.
good.